Welcome all of you to the Super Memory for Schools programme. My name is Kim Ngun and I'm a teacher at the Kwangchung Secondary School. Today we will learn lesson number 1 in the Grade 8 History programme, the First Bourgeois Revolutionaries. Within the lesson today, we will learn 2 main contents. The first is the social and economic modification in Western Europe. The following is the English Bourgeois Revolution. In the first content, we will study the socio-economic change of Western Europe during the 15th century. We have to keep in mind 3 contents. Firstly, during the 15th century, a new manufacture emerged in the Western European countries. This was the prosperity of production of capitalism. From the craft sites to the form of hiring workers began in the 15th century, and this is the breeding ground for social modification. 2 new classes were formed in Western European society. Those are the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. The bourgeoisie are the owners of craft factories, which are recently companies, factories, or banks. And the proletariat are the employees, who are also called workers. Thus, by the 15th century, the bourgeoisie had a huge economic potential under the development of capitalism. However, that development was frustrated by feudalism, so there was a contradiction between bourgeoisie and feudalism. At the same time, workers, craftsmen, and the newly emerged proletariat were all subjected to extreme exploitation by the feudal system. For this reason, both of these new classes were in conflict with feudalism, and it led to the first struggle. In the second main content, we will learn about the Dutch Revolution. Please bear in mind 2 ideas. The first is the cause, and the second is the development of the Dutch bourgeois revolution. At that time, the land of Netherlands, which is the territory of the Netherlands and Belgium today, was a developed economic capitalism region. However, the region of Netherlands was again under the control of the Kingdom of Spain at that time. That was the reason why the Spanish domination tried to prevent the development of the capitalist economy in this region. So the conflict gradually became more and more tremendous. Struggle movements started. Since the 16th century, the struggles have been extremely fierce. And by 1581, the combined provinces were established, which became the Dutch Republic afterwards. And the struggle continued. Until 1648, Spain had to recognise the independence of the Dutch. Thus, the Dutch Revolution ended with a very important significance. This is the first bourgeois revolution all over the world. And it paved the way for capitalism to grow in the Netherlands, creating favourable conditions for later struggle movements. In the second main content, we will learn about the bourgeois revolution in England. Please take into account 3 ideas. The first is the cause, the second is the revolutionary process, and the third is the revolution's significance. The causes of the English bourgeois revolution. Like many countries in Europe, by the 15th century, the capitalist economy developed. This also happened in England, especially in the southeast of England. At that time, under the influence of the capitalist economy, a class called the new aristocracy came out beside the bourgeoisie. The new aristocracy were people who possessed land and fields. However, instead of distributing land to tenants and collecting taxes as the feudal system did, these aristocrats created a new form of exploitation. That was fencing up land, raising sheep to provide wool for the wool industry, which was very developed in England. Therefore, the benefits of the aristocracy were associated with the development of the capitalist economy. And when feudalism tried to prevent it, the bourgeoisie and the new aristocrats came together to oppose the feudal system. That was the breeding ground for the bourgeois revolution in England. In terms of progression of the revolution, there were two main stages in the English bourgeois revolution. The first period was from 1642 to 1648. That was the Civil War period. The second period from 1649 to 1688. In this period, new regimes began to be established in England. Please look at the English bourgeois revolution map. We can see two regions marked differently in this map. This cross-marked area illustrates an area with farmer uprisings. And the blue colour land is the area controlled by the king. The shaded white colour area is controlled by Parliament. Parliament was the representative of bourgeoisie and new aristocracy classes in England. So in 1640, the Parliament was summoned. The king wanted to take advantage of the Parliament to increase taxes for amusement purposes. At that time, King Charles I was ruling England. However, Parliament did not agree with the king's suggestion. In 1642, the king manoeuvred troops to attack Parliament. People supported Parliament, so the Civil War originally started. By the command of Oliver Cromwell, the Congressional Army began to gain initial victories. In 1648, the first period of the war ended with the victory of the Parliament. King Charles was arrested in London. The second period, from 1649 to 1688. At that time in 1649, due to the pressure of the people, Charles was executed in London. After Charles was executed, a republic was established in England. However, the bourgeoisie and the new aristocrats possessed benefits, while people did not have anything, so the public continued to struggle. Owing to the public's pressure, in 1688, England reformed into a constitutional monarchy, and the republic was eradicated. In the constitutional monarchy system, it has a king, but all power is possessed by the bourgeoisie and the new aristocrats. So the king in name was just a puppet. So the bourgeoisie could manage and exploit people. And with the presence of the king, England is still a constitutional monarchy country today. Then the English bourgeois revolution temporarily ended in 1688 with the establishment of a constitutional monarchy. So in terms of the significance, due to the existence of feudalism, the British bourgeois revolution was considered an incomplete revolution. However, it still unfolded the possibilities for the development of capitalism in England. People had not made the most of the revolution's outcome, so they continued to fight. So the lesson today included the first two revolutions, the Dutch Revolution and the English bourgeois revolution. All of you have to remember the concept of bourgeois revolution. That is, the revolution led by the bourgeoisie, overthrowing feudalism and paving the way for capitalism to grow. The second concept that you need to remember is the definition of constitutional monarchy. Simply understanding, a constitutional monarchy is a regime in which the king has no power, so power is possessed by the bourgeoisie and the leading classes. This is the end of today's lesson. Please keep in mind two main things. The first main content is the socio-economic transformation in Europe and the appearance of new production with the Dutch Revolution. And the second main content is the causes, progression, and significance of the English bourgeois revolution. Our lesson finishes here. Thank you for your attention and see you again in the next chapter of Super Memory for Schools programme.